The Orlando Magic are the favorites in the Eastern Conference. A brand new landscape, including tonight's move for the Boston Celtics today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 24th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic are among the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. A fresh look at the landscape with all the news that's happened. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day you can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day. You can always make Locked On Magic a bigger part of your day by making it your first listen every single day. We truly appreciate all of our everyday listeners. Check out all the great podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It did not take long for us to begin thinking about it. We've been thinking about the 2026 season since early May, and certainly in the last week since the Magic acquired Desmond Bane, the Magic undercut the field, if you excuse the racing term, undercut the field and kind of set the mark for the kind of improvement everybody else in the league is going to have to make. The Magic very much set the tone for the direction everyone has to go and the mark everyone has to hit. If the Orlando Magic were considered a team in waiting, a team that was just beset by injuries, was so much better than their record, then the acquisition of Desmond Bane improved the team. Look, at the end of the day, we think about this when the season ended, or when the Magic made that trade last week. We could argue and debate what the Magic gave up. But at the end of the day, the Magic are a better team now than they were last season, than they were on May 1st when the season ended. Now, again, there is work to do. We're going to get to some of that work here later on in the show. But by just the sheer will of talent, Paolo Banchero is an all-star level player. Even after playing just 5 games, he was 5th in all-star voting. With Jason Tatum out, probably going to make the all-star team, but might get voted in as a starter next year. Then again, Joel Embiid will be back. There'll be some other things in there as well. Franz Wagner was set to be an all-star before his injury. The Magic are one of the few teams that feels like they have 2 bona fide all-stars, and that's usually what you need to get out front. Between Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, and now Desmond Bane, the Magic might have the best starting 4 quartet of players in the Eastern Conference. Now, look, I'll grant you Cleveland Cavaliers. I will let you argue the New York Knicks. I will let you argue a healthy Indiana Pacers, certainly argue a healthy Boston Celtics. But they're in the argument. They're in the debate. And so maybe we shouldn't be surprised at the early odds for the 2026 season. I checked pretty close to immediately after the finals ended, and certainly it started spreading like wildfire among Magic fans. And yes, we posted it on the Locked On official networks as well. The Orlando Magic are among the favorites in the Eastern Conference. The Orlando Magic are among the teams this league is watching. And this league is waiting to see what happens with. According to our friends at FanDuel, and I will get the official odds here as I'm recording this late at night on Monday. According to FanDuel, the Magic have the 5th best odds to win the NBA championship. Forget the East for a second. to win the NBA championship at plus 1,200, 12-1 odds. Houston, New York, Cleveland, Oklahoma City are the only teams ahead of them. For the Eastern Conference, then the Orlando Magic are, as you would expect, third, currently running at plus 420. That's 42-10 odds, I believe, 42-10 odds, which would be 21-5 if you want to go by those odds. Plus 420, bet 100, win 420. Very, very simple. Only Cleveland and New York are ahead of them. The Magic told us, Desmond Bane told us when he came in, he's here to win. The Magic told us they were making moves with a win now lens. And yes, the Magic still have work to do. Their bench needs a lot of work. They need some scoring punch off their bench. And frankly, we don't know if this Magic team can score yet. They don't have a point guard. Maybe they need one, maybe they don't. But this is a team that was 27th in the league in offensive rating last year. We don't know if their defense will mesh. There's still a lot unknown about this Magic team. And so I get some doubts. And, I was tagged in the Locked On Podcast Network's tweet of the odds. And a lot of people are saying the Magic were listed too high. And I'm not going to blame them. But this is the fact of the matter. The Magic are expected to be in this conversation. The Magic expect themselves to be in this conversation. And we'll get to the whole East landscape here in a minute. But the Magic have put themselves in this conversation. They laid down the gauntlet with their trade for Desmond Bane. They laid down exactly what they hope to be and what they hope to show and what they hope to see. They laid down exactly the stakes of this offseason to every team in the Eastern Conference. You were scared of us before because of our defense. Be scared of us now because we're getting better and we're here and we see this opportunity. We see this window. I mentioned this yesterday. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but while the Magic still have a lot of work to do not get me wrong. The Magic still had one of the worst records in the league against teams with above 500 records. And that's something the Magic are hoping that adding Desmond Bane and adding whatever they're going to add over the next month is going to change. Desmond Bane, for his part, has struggled against better teams. Did not have a good run against Cleveland or Boston in 4 games against them. Really struggled against the Thunder in both the playoffs and the regular season. Maybe being among the Magic's other scorers will help him out a little bit, but the Magic still have to prove themselves. If you're doubting the Magic, that's fine. The Magic have to prove themselves. But as Jamal Mosley said last week, pressure is a privilege. And the Magic have earned the pressure of your expectations. They have earned the pressure of these expectations to be among the favorites in the East. Because they took Cleveland to 7 games 2 years ago. They beat Cleveland on a big stage, granted without Evan Mobley. They beat the New York Knicks when they were down all their players in Madison Square Garden. They've beaten the Knicks several times over the last few years. Paolo Banchero kills it at Madison Square Garden. Give him a playoff series in MSG. I dare you. The Magic have a lot to prove, but they've proven enough and done enough to make you think, to make you convinced, to make you believe that anything is possible, that a championship is possible. And FanDuel, our friends at FanDuel, and the odds makers around the world are seeing that too. The Magic are no longer a sleeping giant. They made a trade that would suggest that they're not sleeping anymore. And they should be counted among the favorites in the East. The Magic, whether they are or not, is irrelevant. The Magic should feel like they are. The Magic should believe they are this good. And obviously, none of it matters. Your odds do not matter. It's what you do on the court from October through April to get to the playoffs, and then in April, May, and June to win a championship. But the Magic have put themselves in a very good position to make something of it. Because the Eastern Conference changed a lot in this postseason. We'll talk about the latest developments in the East coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder Where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. With Monarch, you realize just how much you're spending on things like food delivery so you can budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps or relying on an inconvenient Excel spreadsheet, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. With easy collaboration, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever to track and share personal and shared accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the number one business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. OpenPhone lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a true game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone, OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. If you think the Eastern Conference, though, is going to roll over and just let the Orlando Magic take the 3 seed, the 4 seed, whatever seed, that's not how this works. The Magic are better. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. The Magic are a better team today than they were in May. Getting a healthy Jalen Suggs back makes them a better team. Desmond Bane makes them a better team. There are still things to solve. There are still things to resolve. But the Magic are a better team. And if the Magic believe if they were healthy, they would have been in the fight for 4, 5, 6 last year with Milwaukee, Detroit, Indiana, then they certainly believe they are in that fight now at minimum. Home court advantage for the Magic should be the minimum expectation. Winning a playoff series, frankly, should be a minimum expectation for this team with the experience they now have and the things they have added. But the East isn't going to roll over. Cleveland is still there. They still won 60 some odd games last year. Yeah, they lost in the second round, but Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Jared Allen is still a really formidable group. They're probably going to retain Ty Jerome. They'll lose Isaac Okoro. They'll lose some players, but that Cavs team is still really good. They have lots of experience now in the playoffs. They haven't gotten to the conference finals, obviously, but they're still a juggernaut. The New York Knicks, yes, they're getting a new coach. Yes, there will be changes. But that's still a really tough, hard-nosed team. A lot of offense with Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. Great play from Deuce McBride off the bench. New York is still OG Anunoby. New York is still a very dangerous team. And Cleveland and New York are rightfully the betting favorites. They have done the most. There's obviously a lot of questions beyond that. Orlando has its share of questions, which I shared earlier. Indiana is going to take a step back. They're still probably a playoff team with Pascal Siakam leading the way, but Tyrese Halliburton having torn his Achilles, going to be out for the whole 2026 season. They're going to be different. It's going to be a different team, and no one knows how they're going to react, but yeah, they're probably taking a step back. The big news obviously came late. One of the reasons why I'm recording a little bit later today, when the Boston Celtics traded for Anthony Simons, the long-held target for the Orlando Magic. While Simons certainly is a defensive downgrade over Drew Holiday, Simons is going to keep that team afloat offensively. For a Boston Celtics team that loves to shoot threes, they got a player who is not afraid to shoot those threes and not afraid to put up shots. Simons is going to win Boston a lot more games. And even before this trade, taking Tatum off the team didn't kill the Celtics. It probably took them down from contender to nice team. The Magic are probably playing Boston again in the first round if it's the 4-5, maybe even the 3-6. Boston is still a playoff team, even with Jason Tatum also having torn his Achilles. Detroit, we don't know what Detroit's going to do. Detroit has some cap room. They have that experience now. They're going to get Jaden Ivey back. They're going to have the season that the Magic wanted to have last year, where they have these crazy ambitions and want to try and do it again and prove they can do it again. Detroit's not going anywhere. That defense sticks. That team can defend. They're confident now. They know what they're doing. They believe in what they're doing. They'll add to that roster, even if it's not a big step-up move. But Detroit could easily make that kind of a move. You move Tobias Harris for like a Zion Williamson or Lauri Markkanen or someone else that we're not thinking of, because obviously the Magic were thinking Anthony Simons. We thought the Magic were thinking Anthony Simons. They ended up with Desmond Bane, who's a better player than Simons. The Pistons could easily be in this conversation too. Milwaukee still has Giannis. Losing Damian Lillard will hurt. He'll be out for the entire year, most likely with the torn Achilles. I know, lots of torn Achilles. Milwaukee's not going anywhere though, because Giannis is still really good. They'll be in the hunt for the 5 seed, the 6 seed, the 7 seed. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to be an easy out, even with all the injuries, even with the restrictions they have as they try to cut salary. They might lose Brook Lopez. They'll have to find an answer at center, but Milwaukee's not going anywhere. And then you got to think about who else is still around. Philadelphia has the number 3 pick in the draft. Joel Embiid's healthy. They got Tyrese Maxey. They got Jared McCain. They got Paul George still. Depth was their issue. They're going to add a high-level rookie on top of it. Philadelphia is sneaking around. We won't bask too long in the glory of Miami not getting Kevin Durant. A huge, huge deal that Miami was unable to get Kevin Durant, but Miami's still a playoff team, guys. Like they've still got playoff level talent. They may not have that alpha level star that they are always hunting and seeking for, but they're still around. I'm not sitting here saying the East is as competitive as the West. There are a lot of teams, like Cleveland is the best team, and they're still dealing with scars from this loss and from the losses they've had in playoffs past. They can't seem to get all their pieces clicking at the moment that matters. They're by far the best team in the East. They should be the 1 seed again next year. New York's got to find a new coach. Orlando's got to figure out if they can actually score points. Every single one of these East teams has a significant flaw. But again, if you're any team in the East and you're looking at the 2026 season, because Boston's not a threat, or Boston's not the same threat they were, Indiana is not the same threat that they were, it feels so wide open. Detroit wants to play, and listen to Koo at Locked On Pistons. I'm sure he's going over it. I'm sure I've got his response to the Desmond Bane trade on my playlist. Detroit's certainly going to do something, but Detroit wants to be patient and wait and see and figure this out. But at the same time, this is the perfect time to go for it. That's what Orlando decided. It wasn't just that this was the time Orlando had to go for it. Orlando was going to run out of time. Their cap situation was going to prevent them from running out of time. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention on the list, Atlanta is going to get Jalen Johnson back, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu. Not striking fear in anyone's hearts, but a much better team than what they were last year. And Toronto, surprisingly loaded with some talent. Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley. Toronto should be a play-in team and should be very competitive as well. But all these teams should be looking at the East and saying it's there for the taking. Indiana proved the right mix, the right ideas are still possible. And again, this is why there's a vacuum. It's why the Magic are the 3rd favorite to win the East. Because there is this vacuum that someone's going to get sucked into. That someone is going to get a chance to make something out of. This is the East. And it'll change in 2027. Whoever wins the East is going to be the favorite again. Boston will be back. Who knows what Milwaukee will look like? Detroit will look different. Teams will adjust. They'll put some chips in. The Magic, again, the opportunity was now. They had to make this move now with Desmond Bane. But this was their big move. This was a big move to step forward and say, we will take the Eastern Conference mantle. And I don't think the Magic are done. I think the Magic have another major move in them. Why it is time to have the conversation about Jonathan Isaac, because this opportunity in the Eastern Conference isn't going to come around again. Why they might need to make that move now. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Plus, told you they already have futures. We talked about some of those futures with the Magic being the third favorite to win the Eastern Conference on FanDuel's early futures predictions. So, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. The lesson from this postseason is that winning a championship is a mixture of talent and opportunity. That's during the playoffs, that's during anything. And as we're looking at the league right now, there is opportunity. You can't win the championship if you don't get to the finals. And the East right now, the path feels as open as it's ever going to be. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it feels as open as it's going to be in a long time. The Magic understood this was a summer where they had this was the last summer the Magic have really any kind of spending power. This was a summer to reshape the roster and make the big move. So it's not just a golden opportunity to take a step forward among the Eastern Conference's elite. It was the opportunity to add salary to the roster and make a bold statement in the transaction market. And I don't think the Magic are done. Because this is such a critical summer for spending and a critical summer for thinking about how the Magic are spending, not only that, but also this opportunity that's going on in the Eastern Conference. The Magic should not be done. The Magic should be thinking to look for one more move. Our friends over at Locked On Bulls reported that the Orlando Magic put a massive deal on the table for Kobe White at the trade deadline. Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, 2 first-round picks and a pick swap for Kobe White. I think there would have had to have been some other piece to that deal just for cap rules, but that was essentially the deal. We've seen reports earlier this offseason the Magic had been including Jonathan Isaac in some of their trade scenarios alongside Cole Anthony. At the end of the day, whatever deal the Magic had for Kobe White, the Magic used a lot of that capital to get Desmond Bane. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, 2 very tradable contracts, their whole first-round pick stash, it's all gone. Jonathan Isaac remains. And this brings up a really, really important debate and a really, really important question for the Orlando Magic. Do they trade Jonathan Isaac? Is this the time to move Jonathan Isaac? The logic is there. He's obviously coming off a very difficult season. A season where he was still very good defensively. He had 2 stocks per game. His defensive numbers still look good. But they weren't elite, at least at the elite level that we were expecting them to be, or that we're accustomed to them being. He still only played about 15 minutes per game. And while he got through his second season healthy, despite the weight gain, despite the troubles and struggles he had playing at a heavier weight, he got through the season healthy. 2 straight healthy seasons. But this is the thing. The Magic have to count their dollars. They have to count their dollars and cents. And Jonathan Isaac is a $15 million player, averaging 5 points per game, playing 15 minutes per game. It is going to be very hard for this team with their payroll to sustain that level of production at that price. And so Jonathan Isaac is absolutely on the trade block. If the Magic have one more chip to pull, yeah, Goga Bitadze needs $8 million, certainly on the table. I'm not going to sit here and say otherwise. If the Magic have one more big chip to pull, it might be moving Isaac, who's still on a very team-friendly deal, would be the best defender on almost every team he's on, to get a quality player, to get maybe two quality players. The Magic have to make the most of that salary slot. You've heard me talk about this over the last few years, especially last summer with all the extensions the Magic gave. It's all about salary slots, because with the Magic capped out, with the Magic playing in the first apron, playing potentially in the second apron, they can't bring back more money than they send out. So having movable, large contracts helps you add quality players with their bird rights to improve your roster. I've seen Magic fans pitch me a Jonathan Isaac for Grayson Allen. That's not the direction I would go. But you look at the list of players who are making $15 million and you start asking yourselves, would those players help the Magic more than Jonathan Isaac? You at least have to think about it. Here's a list of players that are in Jonathan Isaac's salary range. Austin Reeves, PJ Washington, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Grayson Allen, Corey Kispert, Jordan Clarkson, and I mentioned earlier, Isaac Okoro. None of those players may completely blow you away, but certainly a shooter like Grayson Allen or Corey Kispert or Jordan Clarkson would help this team tremendously. Bogdan Bogdanovic would help this team tremendously to add the shooting that they need. After all, the Magic are one of the teams that are considered to be offering the $14 million mid-level exception at Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Not to say these players are better or worse than him, but that's an option. And of course, the Magic can always take back less money than they send out, and it may end up being that the Magic attach the 25th pick to Jonathan Isaac to bring in a veteran player, maybe trade back in the draft if that's what they want to do. I don't think the Magic should trade Isaac lightly. I want to be very clear on that. Isaac is still a potentially elite defender. He makes it possible for the Magic to play with Mo Wagner, because Mo Wagner, not the greatest defender, so when he has an elite rim protector next to him, it allows him to do his thing pretty freely. And you don't replace Isaac's defense. I've been talking with a few people. I think if the Magic draft Rasheer Fleming with the 25th pick, I don't think Rasheer Fleming's going to be at 25, but if they were to get Rasheer Fleming at 25, that gives them some permission to trade Isaac, because Fleming can do some of the versatile defensive things the Magic want. He'll give you a little bit more offensively with the shooting. He's a decent shot blocker. It gives you a cheaper, worse version of Isaac, but it allows you to fill that position so that you can move Isaac. Right now, the Magic don't have anyone. Again, then there's no one that does what Isaac does, but they don't have anyone to fill that backup 4 spot. I don't quite trust Tristan da Silva. I don't think he's quite tall enough to do that. But that's the game. That's what the Magic have to figure out. And if there is a player, and I don't know if any of the players I just mentioned are players the Magic are looking at or want, but if there's a player the Magic want that fits their needs, that gives them more value and maybe gives them a little bit more wiggle room under the first apron so that they can go use it full MLE and sign Mo Wagner and keep Caleb Houston, then this is what they got to do. The Magic have some big contracts to deal with. And look, Goga Bitadze is at $8 million, very movable contract as well. I don't want to sit here and say Goga Bitadze is 100% going to be on the roster next year. I don't think that's the case. Goga Bitadze, I think, probably has more trade value than Jonathan Isaac right now, just because Jonathan Isaac has struggled so much offensively last year. But the Magic do have to think about this. They have to think about whether they're maximizing that salary slot, because that's what matters. That's what's important. That's how the Magic are going to make the most of this roster. Because as you try to game this out, it's really hard for the Magic to check off all their needs, retain players they want to retain, and stay under the first apron hard cap that it'll take to sign some of these players. For the Magic to take a major improvement, they're going to have to make some hard choices. They made a hard choice with Cole Anthony. And I think they're going to make a hard choice with Jonathan Isaac. Because again, $15 million next year. He averaged 5 points per game, played 15 minutes per game. That $15 million isn't as much as it used to be. I want to make that clear too. But it's about 10% of the cap. But that's not a lot for 10% of the cap, especially when you're restricted in so many other things you're trying to do. Again, I don't think the Magic are done. I think the Magic have one more move in them. I think they're going to go after a free agent. I think draft night, they're going to be a little busy as well. Jonathan Isaac is very much on the block for that reason. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You, of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all formats you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest, you can check us out on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. Subscribe there as well. We're trying to up those subscribers. So please hop on if you have not done so already. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, go make your second listen to 2025 Locked On NBA Mock Draft before it all gets old with the trades that are happening beforehand. A 5-episode series with the most comprehensive NBA draft analysis from NBA experts to college experts and NBA draft experts. Find the 2025 Locked On NBA Mock Draft on NBA Big Board and Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Celtics certainly did better acquiring Anthony Simons than I did. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to put a bow on NBA draft stuff, get you ready for what to expect on draft night. We'll do the latest mock drafts. We'll get through all of it tomorrow. We'll figure some stuff out. We'll have fun on our draft, on our last episode before the start of the draft. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.